Welcome, everyone. It's the Mike Tech Show, show number 889. Tonight, I'm going to go over a couple Mac tips. I got a story from the trenches that you will love, and a stack of listener email with tips and follow-ups to some of the past topics. So let's get started. And the first one is how to stop programs from loading when a Mac OS starts up. I actually had to Google that and find out all the different options. And I did that on Saturday when my sister and I were here just relaxing in the living room, and we're watching some old shows on TV because we had the music festival that we attended on Sunday, which was tremendous. Had a great time. Well, a client called. She was at a friend who was having trouble. So the first link for tonight is how to stop programs from loading. And there's a couple places. And one of the obvious things, which I was able to do, is disable reopening Windows on boot. When you have a Mac and you're restarting, it defaults to check a box that comes up to reopen Windows when logging back in. Uncheck that. Then click restart. Another thing I checked was the logins, and that's where you have to go to where accounts are, pick the account, and then check logins, and then you don't need everything to start up on login. The only thing you really need is Finder. Everything else you really don't need it on startup unless it's your antivirus or something critical that you have to use automatically. So I always hit the minus, get rid of all of them. And that's all this is doing, is going over some of the basics. And I think you should take a look at that if you need it, if you support Macs, or maybe what I'm hoping to do here in little pieces. Maybe you're afraid to support Macs because you don't have one, you don't know. And to me, that's leaving money on the ground if this is what you do. You should, if you're in this business doing support, you should invest in a Mac. Get a used one, get something old just to get familiar with the Mac OS and practice and play and test it out. And so this way you'll be able to help clients. And hey, I'm not afraid to say, oh, I don't know, especially if it's Mac hardware. Mac hardware, I tell them, you go to an Apple store if it's under warranty. If it's not, and if you're now back in my area outside Philadelphia in Pennsylvania, I happen to know a great Mac guy who has a storefront that I can send people, especially if it's out of warranty. He can save a ton of money. So if not, you send them to you send them to the Apple store if they got hardware problems that you can't take care of. So now, just finishing up on the Mac, something weird was happening. When you use the trackpad, and by the way, I hate the trackpad on MacBooks. Matter of fact, I hate them on laptops. I have so many mice laying around here that I can use with any system I want. I do not like trackpads because in the old days, if you leaned on the laptop too much with your palms, it would cause it to jump. The cursor would jump. And I found a utility that I had to install for many clients that had that problem that would disable the trackpad as soon as the mouse is plugged in to make sure that it's not that sensitivity. Well, this is happening on MacBooks, and it's now there's instructions here to enable tap to click on Mac. I say disable that for the trackpad. So the tap to click, and the screenshots are here on the second link that's going to be in the show notes. You literally go to settings, go to trackpad, pick point and click, and uncheck tap to click if they're having crazy things happening when they tap the trackpad. That was also happening with my client's friend on Saturday. So I was able to remote into the Mac and was able to see what was going on and take care of, because he thought Safari was broke. And it's very interesting. The start page wasn't a website. So when he would click Safari, it would launch to a non-website and says server's not available. So to the client, Safari's broke, right? Makes sense. That's what he's seeing. That's how he described it. So I needed to get connected because I said, can you type a website? And he could. So I was like, ooh, okay. And I was able to, I think I remoted in there once because we found Instant House Call was on there. So that means I must have helped him at one time in the past. So he was able to click that. I got connected and I was able to, now let's see what's going on, and nailed everything, took care of it in a half hour. So now for my story in the trenches. And this has been an incredibly busy week. And this was today and yesterday took up a lot of time. And I'm going to describe what an RIA is. And if anybody who supports financial advisors, you understand what an RIA is, but you may not. It's a registered investment advisor. Now, one of my financial advisors, where he really just does 401ks, but he falls in that category, and he changed his RIA. They also, he changed his broker-dealer, and I'm not going to get into that, but the registered investment advisors, they're professionals who advise individuals, institutions, and other organizations on investments and financial planning. So it's who the financial agent reports up to. They are bound, everybody, by the SEC regulations, FINRA compliance. So he changed who his RIA is. So they have different compliance demands. Each RIA, no two are alike. And I deal with a bunch of them. I deal with LPL. I deal with, what's the one for P? I forget. I deal with TD Ameritrade. I deal with Ameriprise. I deal with a lot of these. And so each of them have different rules for compliance that I just follow. And I just make sure my client, everything's fine. Well, they did not ask to talk to the IT person a few weeks ago. And they went in, and he is an exchange-hosted client with SureWeb, and we have the Mail Gateway proof point in front of his email. So he could send encrypted emails, and everything's fine. Well, they went in, and they got his access to GoDaddy, and they changed all the DNS. Oh, by the way, their IT guy did not. Now, I have a copy of all of his DNS, but they didn't even make a copy of his DNS. They went into his Outlook profile. And they went to Google Workplace. So he's now happy with Exchange. Everything syncing. He has a Windows PC, but he also has an iPad and an iPhone. So his portable devices are in the Apple ecosystem, and it syncs perfectly. His calendar, his contacts, his email. Well, now he's Google Workplace. This is not how he works. They did export everything to a PST, but now they set him up with IMAP. Oh, by the way, blowing away my profile that he's been using for years in Outlook. There are so many lessons here. He did everything you're not supposed to do. One, he should have asked, wait a second, he didn't set clearly this guy did, my client did not set all this up himself. He's, who's your IT guy? Let's get him on the phone, or let's schedule, how about a little conference call? How about a little courtesy for now someone who's your client? I just wanted a smidgen of courtesy. Nope, that didn't happen. Now it did. They took him, and now he can't do anything on the calendar. The calendar's not syncing, and they didn't even like throw a utility at him for this. I don't know how they live like that. Anyway, contacts, forget it. They're not syncing. And he was getting his email, but he didn't have the folder structure and everything except for what was sitting on a PST that was attached. Now to fix, this is where I learned everything. To fix his calendar issue, they went to the latest version of Outlook, which I don't think is formally released, because wait until you hear this. And this is a warning for anybody out there. The latest version of Outlook does not support adding data files. Yes, you heard me, because when he flipped him to the new version of Outlook, he got the calendar working, but he could not get to his old email. And I got a panic call. Mike, all my folders are gone, everything. I said, oh, what did he do? Delete. And then he explains, well, I changed my RIA. I changed, and they did this. Oh, they wiped out malware bytes from his system and put web root. They did everything. And that's okay if they have regulations that they have to follow. Fine. I get that. I understand that. But consult with the person's IT. They left him where he couldn't function and operate for his business. And you can't do that. When we finally talked and got connected, and then I found out everything that's going on, that was last week. A few days went by. He had so many problems. They escalated his case, and management or whatever decided he can go back as long as we get journaling set up. Not a problem, and I'm working on that right now. But today, I changed his DNS back. I flipped him, and I created just a brand new profile with his old Exchange connection to SureWeb, leaving the profile that was created by this RIA intact. And there's so many lessons here. One, never just change someone's DNS, especially if someone else is responsible. Fold them in to what you're going to be changing. Second, you got to make a copy of everything. That is so negligent to touch or change anything where you didn't make a proper copy. And next, if you're ever playing with Outlook and profiles, create a new one. You can make that where that's the only one that starts up. Don't touch the old profile, because what if you got to go back? And guess what? Right now, he has to flip between both profiles because there's new stuff that came in that I was unable to export, which that's another problem, from his IMAP and Gmail. And now I made it where you choose the profile you want. So, and this was confusing because they created a new profile and still messed up mine. His new profile, they called new. So now when it boots up, the new is, as of today, the old. This was just something else that was very confusing for my poor client. He's much happier now. He's working the way he should be working, and everything's fine. I got to get the journaling set up, and that's something I'm working with SureWeb. But I think what I got to do, and I think I can do this within Proofpoint. Here's the thing we decided: if for some reason journaling will not work, if I can't get that going, I'm gonna migrate him to true Microsoft hosted for his email, where that's real easy. I would do a Microsoft 365 Business E3, which has compliance capability. I can put in the mail flow rules that can work with where they want his inbound and outbound email to go. And that's a regulation. So most of the time now, I inherited this client a few years ago. We go back a little bit. And that never came up to turn on or to have until now. But anybody else that ever comes to me that's any part of the financial landscape or medical, I will move them to where their email can be journaled. And especially a startup where I had a client that left Ameriprise and needed to do everything from scratch on their own. As this group of agents left Ameriprise, they're now on their own. They have their own broker-dealer and RIA. And so what I've done is I set them all up right from Microsoft, right with E3, worked with their IRA to get all the journaling and all the mobile rules that they need and, get them compliant. So there just, it is unbelievable that someone would just go in and just, like the Borg and just assimilate without any kind of a backup, So lots of lessons that he learned and he understands. He's forbidden to change the DNS without contacting me. And we just changed the password anyway from GoDaddy, so he wouldn't be able to connect. Man, I had to share that because I'm living that right this week. Okay, so let's get to the stack of emails. And let's first get to YouTube blocking. And we got Kate who sent the following, and I have this link, which will be in the show notes. Kate starts, I also use AdBlock Plus. I pay for the premium version, and they are clearly going through some things. Here's a post from the AdBlock Plus people, which acknowledges the issues and suggests some workarounds. It's a good idea to look at the post's comments because things that worked a week ago might not be working now. One suggestion is to use your browser's private mode, and there are a couple of comments on how to do that. As soon as I'm through watching your show, which is great, she stopped and emailed me right in the middle of watching the show 888. I'm going to give this a try because this is a really heavy-handed way to push a paid version on us. Who's doing YouTube marketing? Elon Musk? I have to say that. Okay, back to your YouTube video now. So, and then she says, oh yeah, go Niners. And let me tell you, on Sunday, man, the 49ers killed my Eagles. So this is from Chris, and you're going to like this. And it's the Tamper Monkey script. Hi, Mike. I've been using this Tamper Monkey script for the last month or two to make the ads on YouTube go away. I have a GitHub link. He continues, I previously used uBlock Origin to block ads on YouTube, but I kept getting notifications about turning off my ad blocker and accumulating strikes. I use this on Chrome, and by the way, this works on Firefox. I tested it. And the only thing you see is an occasional pause as the ad is bypassed. It's usually less than a second, so you barely notice it. Boy, I didn't even notice it at all in Firefox. This works on most popular browsers, and I suspect it will work on variants like Brave and WaterFox. Now, he mentions WaterFox. I have not heard of that, so now that's something else I got to try. So that is very, very cool. Thank you, Chris, for that. I really appreciate it. Now, he did mention something, and I forgot to mention. One of the links that I'm sending you is from Wired Magazine, and I noticed when I clicked on it tonight, I think that's going to be the first link in the show notes. It's behind a paywall. And if you've listened to past shows, I think if you just Google paywall on my site, you will find the proper software that you can bypass the paywall. So here we're doing some really interesting things now to get in trouble. We're gonna block the paywalls, and we're gonna block the ads that are popping up on YouTube. So, okay, yeah. Oh no. Oh, Marius, I disagree. He says blocking ads is a hopeless effort. YouTube will eventually win. No, because the smart people at AdBlock Plus aren't going to stand for it, and they can just keep adjusting the script in Tamper Monkey, which is open source being served up through GitHub. So I don't know about that, Marius. So not so sure. I agree with you. Okay. A couple. Here's a big thank you from Dwayne. And I thanked him, and he says, Mike, I've enjoyed listening to your show since 2005. I won't be listening to your new Philly show since I am an LA Dodgers fan. LOL. Keep up the good work with bringing entertaining and educational shows every week. Thank you, Dwayne, and thank you for the donation. I really appreciate that. And I also want to thank William for your kindness. I really appreciate that. Let's get back to, I have a few things. Oh, this was from David. Do you remember I did the show on learning how to create VBA scripts, and I had a PDF in the link? Well, I made a typo in that link and didn't know it. Shame on me for not testing all the links when I put the show notes. But on Friday, David emailed me. Figure I posted the show Thursday the 16th. And then Friday, November 17th, David emailed me and said, hey, that link's not working. And I jumped right on it and fixed it and replied back, here, it's working. If you run into that, take a moment and email me, MikeTechShow@gmail.com. If something's not working, or, I'm not getting your feed in the download, whatever you're listening to the podcast, or something's wrong, the only way I know is if you tell me. So I really appreciate that. If things aren't working, tell me. So this way, I appreciate it. It's the only way I can get these fixed. Okay. So let's see. I got boop, 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 boop. Here we go. Here's an easy one. And this is from Neil. And unfortunately, Neil, I didn't get to your email last week. He sent me for the it's giveaway of the day. I forgot about that site. I haven't looked at that. Well, WinSysClean for 1 day was free. And that's normally a $30 program. And he sent that to me, and I didn't get to it back. I just couldn't get to it. So I'm just going to put the link up of giveaway of the day. That should be in your feed. Anything you're looking at is, check it out if you got the time, because there's some pretty nice programs that you might get for free just by going there. And this is Neil in San Antonio. And I love this quote at the end. My wife always asks when I'm stuck, what would Mikey do? And me being Mikey. So I love that. Thank you. All right. Let's keep going with the emails. And let's see. We got from Mick. This is an interesting email. I finally convinced an acquaintance who manages a retirement village to turn on BitLocker on his laptop in case it gets stolen, and as it contains personal information. Now, there's many ways to configure BitLocker, and he's having a problem with the one where it recognizes the TPM chip that's built into the system. He says, things went well and the drive was encrypted, and it shows me that BitLocker is turned on. What I was expecting to see was when he started the computer that he'd be prompted for a BitLocker password before he'd need to enter his Windows password. Nope, only the Windows password prompt appeared. That is the proper way to be able, you can't compromise. Once it's encrypted, you're not compromising that password unless someone knows it. So they can't, the idea of the encryption is that if it's stolen, you can't go in and take the drive out without the encryption key, which is very, very long, the recovery key. You are not getting into that drive. And that's the thing that you need to understand. If it prompts for the password, you have to turn that on if you don't have the proper TPM chip. You can still turn it on anyway, but I don't recommend that. That's just an extra password that you really don't need. The drive is still encrypted. I think I've just answered his question as he continues. After searching the inner Google world, my understanding is that because his laptop supports TPM2, that a password prompt is not required. That is correct. And it would only be asked for if the hard drive was removed and connected to another computer running Windows. This doesn't make too much sense as far as encrypting and securing personal information stored on the computer. It absolutely is. And it absolutely fits. If you start looking at FINRA and HIPAA compliance, and you're going to find that's what is recommended, the pro version to turn on and to have that TPM chip. This doesn't make too much sense as the personal information, okay, as if the entire laptop was stolen. Then it would be fairly simple to bypass. No, it wouldn't. And you know what? I challenge you, Mick. Take one of your encrypted passwords, take one of the encrypted drives, have them change the password to something you don't know, and I want you to be able to, you tell me that you've hacked it. Okay. Some of the suggestions I found require registry entries or use of the .reg files to force BitLocker password at startup. I'm a bit reluctant to use them as I don't fully understand what they actually do, so don't do it. Even though it sounds like these entries would force BitLocker password at startup. You don't want to force, you really don't want to do that. Have you or any of your subscribers any suggestions, or preferably point me to a program, URL, .reg file, etc. that I could use? I would make a disk image using Acronis before I made the registry changes just in case. Okay, enjoy the show. And this is Michael, there goes Mick, from Melbourne, Australia. So great hearing from my Australia listeners. Okay. Anybody out there, I do not mind getting deep diving into an encryption discussion. Please email me your thoughts on this or help back me up that once you turn on whole hard disk encryption, you're protected. Someone would have to compromise the Windows login. Now, that Windows login better be a complicated password. It should be 8 characters minimum. A lot of people want 12 now. 8 characters minimum, upper, lowercase, a number, and a symbol. That is important. So you got to have a strong password. And you're fine. And I have many systems that fall under compliance that are perfect to just have the BitLocker encryption on. Yes, you could go further. You could do additional things, but now you got a burden on boot up. And by the way, I've seen those things go off the rails where on that password, and I'm so glad my Synchro, I have a script that will take and get the BitLocker recovery key and store it in our encrypted database for clients. So this way, if I ever need that recovery key, which I did on Monday in order to get into a system, I had to read out that ridiculous 30 character numbers for someone to get in, and it's because they have a password. Now, here's another one, which I've seen people do, but then you can lose the dongle, and you're back in. I've seen some people implement BitLocker where you have to have the dongle plugged in order to boot the drive. What if you lose it? What if the dongle breaks? You have to have a backup of the dongle. Where are you going to store the backup of the dongle? It just creates new problems. Hit me up with emails, voicemails, however you can contact me on this. I would really, really appreciate it. And we got two more. Bob has sent me a couple things on ChatGPT. He says, I just listened to your podcast 887 where you talked about using ChatGPT and VB Script. I have been using ChatGPT for a while now and have been using it for all sorts of functions like writing reports and inputting the items I wanted included in the report. Most times I have to go in and do some tweaking, of course, of the report because it tends to get carried away and adds things that I would not put in the reports. Yes, it gets very long-winded, ChatGPT, in their descriptions. I get it. It's kind of overkill. He continues, I also use it for doing research on items and products I am interested in using, like this one on different types of 3D printer filaments. Wow, that is very cool. And he goes into a lot of different examples of using ChatGPT. And Bob, I really appreciate that. And it just goes to show I never thought of, what like programming like CNC for manufacturing, for generating, for designing an item or doing something for a 3D printer. That's pretty cool. That is very cool. All right. I think I covered everything. Couple administrative things here as I finish up. Tuesday. Now this is music. On Tuesday, December 12th, I am going to do a Frank Sinatra show. That's his birthday. I'm going to celebrate Franksgiving on Tuesday, December 12th, and just playing. There'll be no tech. It'll just be Sinatra. If you like Sinatra, you want to stop by the Twitch channel. It will not be recorded. I will go live on Twitch at 7 o'clock Eastern time. So let's see. Because users will need to spend time and effort looking after scripts and block. Okay, blocking ads is a hopeless. Okay, I want to read something from Marius here from the chat. They will win, not because it's impossible to block, but because users will need to spend time and effort looking after scripts and blocking software, updates after each YouTube patch, while YouTube probably have or will have a dedicated team just for that. Yes, I agree. So, isn't that the case with antivirus and anti-ransomware? The bad guys make improvements. So now all the other companies, they have to, it's a leapfrog, and it's a game. And yes, and it's a battle we're going to be battling for a long, long, long time. So don't forget, check out my YouTube channel. And it's just Michael Smith MTS. Check it out. All the videos are posted up. Also, don't forget the website. You could type MikeTechShow.com, and that'll flip you to the real URL, which is MikeNation.net. I bought years and years ago. I had plans for doing great things with that and just never got around to it. So if you go to MikeNation.net, you will have access to everything I talk about. All of the show notes. You can search for past things. It's It's a great place to get any link or anything that I'm discussing on the show. And that's it for tonight. I will see everybody back here, same time, same channel. That's it. Bye-bye, everyone.